civil rights movement on Long Island. And this story intrigued me because I'm not an expert in baseball, but when I was doing this piece for Fire Island News, actually Greater Bayshore before that, I did 2 articles on this, it just intrigued me. Because this is a little known history we kind of forgot about. And we also forget about the importance and the significance of our own areas. So I will give you a disclaimer here. This is literally a fight between Babylon and Bayshore that's being played out in this, okay? Look, I live in Bayshore, I'm cheering for Bayshore too, but I think Babylon won on this one. So, let me dive into this. If you have any questions, jump in. Can everyone hear me in the back?
Little louder.
Okay,
Little louder.
Good. Little louder. My primary job's a teacher, so I'm very loud. So, let's dive in. Questions? Interrupt me. Feel free. Got it?
Yes, got it.
Good. So, before Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in baseball, before he played for the Dodgers and all these other games and all these other teams, before Satchel Paige invented the curveball, essentially, and essentially the fastball, you had Sol White. This is Sol White right here, and we're going to be discussing him. He's going to be the main attraction in this whole discussion here. And his team, the Cuban Giants, is going to be the main attraction. So when we talk about Satchel Paige, and we talk about Jackie Robinson, they broke the color barrier in baseball. That's the common belief. Like, they were pretty much the firsts to lead in that direction. It was Sol White. He broke the barrier even before Jackie Robinson was born. So, let's dive into it. Give you a little background context. Cuban Giants baseball team. How Long Island resort workers birthed modern-day baseball. So, this is going to be an interesting story. Let's dive in. So before we get into how resort workers invented modern-day baseball, we have to talk about the reinforced racial boundaries here on Long Island, on why you do have black leagues and white leagues. Okay? So let's dive into that. So in colonial, oh wow, you can't see that, can you? Okay, I'll just read it really loud. So in colonial times, during the 17th century to late 18th century, Suffolk County, Long Island comprised of 18% of slaveholding families. 18% of people in Suffolk County owned someone enslaved. Queens County / Nassau County, the number was a lot more higher. It was hovering around 27%. Kings County was about 36% estimate. Now, the enslavement of indigenous people and of people of color created a segregated society here on Long Island. Everyone understand? Got it? Real quick, I'm going to digress for 1 second. We're talking about 18% and 27% enslaved families. What was the number in the South?
A lot more.
How many people own someone in the South, percentage-wise?
10.
10? Okay.
85.
80, you would think that, 85.
Yeah, I would think so.
6.
6%.
You got to understand the difference about enslavement in the South versus enslavement in New York was people in the South, that's 6%, owned a town. In the North, it was 4. It was 5, maybe 6. Like the Gardner family, they owned probably about 4 on an average. Isaac Thompson, Sagato's Manor, they owned 4 on an average. But that being said, this is going to create a segregated society here. So we have a segregated colonial reinforced society. Out of this society, you're going to get a lot of activism. You're going to get the AME churches. We have one here in Bayshore. I believe it was built in 1890s. These AME churches, they're going to be the center of early activism for the communities of color. The best example is Grantsville. Grantsville is what is now Westbury. That town was started essentially by Quakers. They pretty much got the property, allocated it to free people to help them build their own communities. That's the, I'm sure we know Quakers, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. What do they say? Radical witness? No, a radical witness but simple religion. That's what they say. That's like their philosophy, the Quaker Church. Really fascinating. Now, the early activism here also incorporated indigenous people and African Americans. So you're going to have AME churches mixing these two cultures together. Everyone understand? So the Coming Home Harvest Festival is going to be an AME church festival that's celebrated around Thanksgiving. That's pretty much the Green Corn Festival of the Algonquin tribes. Everyone understand? So you're going to see a blending here, a blending of cultures. Got it?
Right.
So indigenous people, freed enslaved people, they're going to form their own culture. Any questions so far? By the way, this was the first pastor at the AME Zion Church in Westbury. Well, it's Grantsville, but I put Westbury because I'm pretty sure not many of us know what Grantsville is. Yes?
What are the numbers? How many people?
What do you mean?
How many people
How many people what?
involved, indigenous and people that are freed slaves? I mean, how many people, numbers?
Oh, statistically, numbers? Believe it or not, we're still verifying that because you, let me give you an example. My dissertation for my master's was Iceland. I focused on Iceland, the enslavement of people in Iceland. And you're talking about probably 647, which is actually a lot compared to we're under 1,000. You know, but it also didn't aggregate the data on indentured either. That was another thing. So once again, a lot of this is a work in progress. What we do know on receipts of people actually purchased is 18% of people with slaveholding families. We don't have an exact number, and here's another why reason. We're surrounded by water. If someone's a slaveholder, usually they're probably tax dodgers too. You have to pay taxes on that. You have different tax structures for different people enslaved. If you are indigenous, you have a lower tax structure because the English wanted to pacify the indigenous population. If you were African, you had a higher tax structure because they were being imported. Now, if you took your enslaved person and bred them with not to sound insensitive, but this is what history is. Not to sound insensitive here, I do apologize. If they mated with an indigenous person, an African person, it's a lower tax structure. Got it? So we don't have a full number on how many African enslaved people came. If you look at the records, everyone's mixed. You got it? Yeah. But we do probably have a lot more African enslaved people because they put a customs house in Sag Harbor because they were smuggling a lot of enslaved people from the Caribbean up here. The Sylvester family in Shelter Island is the best example. He was St. Martinique, I believe he was from, and he brought a lot of enslaved people here. And then some more just popped up, and then more popped up, and they weren't on the records. And we keep recovering more slave burial grounds, like the one in Stony Brook. We have a few here. Actually, I verified 4 that are buried in Sagatos Manor. So, once again, a lot of this stuff is growing. It might be actually higher. That's what we know for sure. And if you really want to check this fact out and be a nerd like me, which I recommend everyone do, you go to the Islip Town Clerk's office and ask for the slave records. And the first thing you're going to say, slavery never existed in New York. And then you say, you're a liar, it's in a leather-bound book, and Carl Starace was the guy that put it in that book. He was the first Islip Town historian. Then they're going to look at you like you're weird, and they're going to say it's on the top left shelf, because that's where it was when I left it last, okay? And when you look at it, it's going to be kind of daunting to look at the records. But the thing is, I'm not saying that person trying to censor history, she really doesn't know. You know? She doesn't, because this is not common. You know, it's not commonly taught. We talk about the South usually. We don't talk about New York in our own backyard.
Mm-hmm.
So, any other questions? Thank you, by the way. Oh, a person working on this a lot. She writes for the Amityville Recorder. I think it's the Amityville Recorder. Don't hold me to that. Sandy Brewster. She's trying to verify every name of every enslaved person. Same with another guy called Steve Wicks on the East End for Suffolk Times, I believe. He's working with her, or somewhat working with her, collaborating with her.
Wow.
I'd like to see how that turns out, because this could be a very daunting process. This might traverse a couple of generations here. Yeah. Any other questions? And another thing, you got me on this one. Newsday came out with an article about the wind farms that they're running the cable. And they're worried about running the cable because of unmarked graves.
Right. Newsday.
Yeah, because they found a bunch of unmarked graves going along William Floyd Parkway. So now we got more stuff to throw in the mix.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. But any other questions? Thank you, by the way. If I went on a tantrum, I apologize.
No, this is good.
Okay,
Very
good. So the AME Church, I was going to say cemetery, pretty much got the property from Quakers. It's going to start vibrant communities, okay, of color, like Bayshore. Much later, of course, in the 1890s, on Brook, where you got the AME Church right there. I think it's the 1890s. Don't hold me to that. But something else is going to happen when you get in these communities and this activism. Boom! The Gilded Age. So we're going to find the most cheapest property, right, that no one ever wanted, and put a bunch of mansions on it and make it the most expensive property in America. And believe it or not, the most cheapest property on Long Island for many, many years, and I just want you to actually fantasize that this was cheap at one time, and if you had a time machine, that would be awesome, is actually Brookville, Manhasset, the North Shore, the tribe of the people of the Matinecock. The Matinecock means people of the hills in Algonquin, okay? And guess what? Do you know why it's cheap? What are we doing here on Long Island? Farming. And moving rocks is expensive. But then all of a sudden, boom, during the Gilded Age, these rich people want to put their houses on hills. They want a view. No one cares about the little farm. So that cheap property is going to come very, very expensive. And you're going to have a vibrant community to work the property. The people of color, such as the Montaukett, the former enslaved people, the Shinnecock, they're going to be working these properties. And they're going to have a little foothold into the middle class. Late 19th century, South Shore Long Island became one of these to-do spots as well. Bayshore was always kind of good for farming as well, but it kind of was, you know, flat. So it was only coastline.
Right.
Now, a lot of resort communities are going to start popping up, especially in Bayshore, and they're also going to pop up in Babylon as well. Once again, Great Neck, Manhasset, Brookville, these are going to be the Gilded Age, large estates, and then of course you're going to have another Vanderbilt, that's in Oakdale, we'll get to that later. But these hotels and estates are going to create a lot of jobs for these indigenous people, and also the former enslaved people from generations past. Lots of jobs, especially here in Bayshore. All those jobs that are kind of overlooked, well, now we have a railroad line after 1870s, late 1870s. So now, if you're in the city and you want to escape collar-restricted city, stuffy city, smelly city, you can take a train to Bayshore, get by the city. You know, I was looking, actually, Barry had something that was really interesting. And, well, he has a lot of things interesting in Bayshore Historical Society. And this goes because there was a cholera scare in Kismet, but it says, Bayshore, there is no cholera. That is the best advertisement you're going to get, seriously. So this is the mentality that we're thinking about, okay? It's a health thing. We're going to leave the city for health purposes. Oak Beach is going to be for the Babylon area, and also you're going to have the whole, what is it, the Cortlandt Hotel, then you're going to have Fire Island, Benjamin Beach is going to be a very therapeutic area. I know Bayshore Marina, we don't think about it as much now, you know, but this was the getaway for the upper middle class people. And you know, I'm digressing because I just wrote an article about this at Fire Island News, and I came to Barry for help on this one, so thank you, and thank you for everyone that was there, including yourself, thank you. Oppenheimer's family are going to come to Bayshore and buy a house on South Saxon.
Really?
Yes. They're going to buy a house on South Saxon. In 1928, they're going to leave and sell that house for an estate in Los Alamos. Because they wanted that dry heat. And also, years later, it's a Trinity test, so, you know, I guess it kind of has worked itself out. Well, maybe it's good they left then, if that's the case. You know, having the Trinity test in Bayshore would not be a good thing, right? But going back to this, though, the Oppenheimer family came here because Bayshore just didn't offer a middle class for people like a Jewish, German Jewish family like Oppenheimer. They also offered tolerance because Bayshore actually takes the cake on kicking out the Klan. once again, I'm going fast forward. The Holy Name Society, the Catholic population, they're going to start working with other groups that don't like the Klan, and guess what? Bayshore don't have the Klan. They came back one other time, then they got kicked out again. And this is going to attract Jewish middle-class people, well, very wealthy people, such as the Oppenheimers to Bayshore. And they're also going to start, I believe, I forgot the whole, the synagogue. Okay, it escaped my mind. The congregation that they started. Does anyone know that congregation?
It was on Brentwood Road?
No. They started a congregation. First they rented that little firehouse. You know, that wood firehouse over there on 2nd Avenue?
Right, yeah.
I just forgot the congregation's name. Okay, well, I can't remember everything. If anyone remembered, please jump in. It's one of these moments. Anyone remember? Okay. Well, they're going to start a congregation as early as the 1890s, so this is going to attract a lot of middle-class Jewish people here as well as Catholics. So Bayshore is going to be an outlier in a lot of areas in Long Island. And believe it or not, Bayshore is cashing in on these resorts and on these little mini estates. But while this is all going on with the middle class, not everywhere in Long Island is like Bayshore, unfortunately. While communities were growing into the middle class, the Ku Klux Klan of Long Island started going underway. 1 in 7 people in Nassau and Suffolk were a product of the Klan. They had memberships in the Klan. These numbers are actually verified in the Suffolk County Historical Society archives in Riverhead. You can go there, you can find it. You're talking 25,000 membership cards. The other half will be in the Wagner files, which will probably be about another 3,600. So that is the population of the Klan. And they kept meticulous records because I'm talking about it today. Now, the Klan, what does it say on the bottom?
Fairgrounds.
Mineola.
Yeah.
Mineola Fairgrounds.
Wow.
So when the communities of color are making it to the middle class here, and the Catholics are coming in, the Jewish people are coming in, right? We're starting to get like a, that quote-unquote melting pot of the middle class. We got the Ku Klux Klan coming in. And yes, their target was people of color, but they also targeted Catholics and Jewish people, we kind of figured that one already, right? They also targeted Catholics as well, specifically Italians. They hated Italians. They said Italians were bringing crime here. They said we were bringing diseases here, and we brought drugs here. Well, Cosa Nostra is a mafia family. I'm Italian. I like to think we did more than that, but positive things, not negative. But this is what the Klan targeted. So they targeted a lot of the new immigrants. They said they were taking the jobs. So it was a battle with that. And when the Klan was taking power in Long Island was also going through a labor glut when they reached their infancy. Everyone understand? Mm-hmm. When you have a labor glut, wages go down. So this is going to boost membership. So this further created a culture of segregation, even prior to the 20s, 1890s, but it's going to peak in the 1920s. Any questions so far? Going once, going twice? We're good?
Yes,
Take
we're
a
very
picture
good.
of where we're at right now?
We're very good, yes.
Okay, good. So let's paint a picture more locally. This is the Argyle Hotel.
Wow.
It was the biggest waste of money. They employed people and no one came. Not one person came. It was boring. Why am I going to go to Babylon when Bayshore got everything going on? I could go to the Cortland and have a drink with Theodore Roosevelt, most likely. Well, rumored that he was there. I could maybe see some celebrities. If this is the 1920s and 30s, maybe Fatty Arbuckle might be walking down prior to the scandal down Ocean Avenue. Why would I go to Bayshore? Why would I go to Babylon when Bayshore is so close? Got it? Well, Babylon thought, you build it, they will come. Kind of the Field of Dreams thing. Well, guess what? It was a Field of Dreams thing, except they never came. I will say this, though, in the defense of the Argyle, it is a beautiful building. Like, architecturally, it's on point. Queen Anne style, with the steeples and stuff, it's beautiful. Hundreds of city vacationists seeking relaxation with a backdrop of sandy beaches travel to the South Shore communities. Late 19th century, Babylon and Bayshore began competing, but it really wasn't much of a competition. Bayshore was beating Babylon silly. Actually, Hicksville was beating Babylon silly. And all Hicksville offered was horses. That's it. So this was really embarrassing. Babylon had Oak Beach, but that was all privately owned by rich people. That went to Bayshore for their downtown needs. So I thought that was kind of funny. Once again, Bayshore, you got the Prospect House, the Linwood, before we got the restaurant on Main, there's actually a resort called Linwood, the Cortland, and once again, they catered to hundreds of middle-class people and wealthy people, and people came here just to do celebrity watching. Okay? You know, picture TMZ, they'll have a freaking office in Bayshore at the time. Okay? The Argyle was opened in the 1880s, and they said they were going to compete and bring people out. Well, it was always vacancies. And once again, it is pretty. Also, we had the horse track here in Bayshore, if you like that type of stuff as well. And don't waste his horse. So, before we get to what was going on in the Argyle, let's do a little flashback. Flashback 90 years. What game are these weird people playing with stockings? Go ahead.
Cricket.
What is it?
Cricket.
Cricket? Yeah, okay, cricket. We'll go with that. Definitely looks like cricket. Anyone else?
Baseball.
Baseball. Those are your plates.
Yeah.
First, second, third.
Okay.
You don't recognize your plate?
Pretty big.
Yeah, well, this is like this is like 1790s. So let's jump into this. Baseball was first played throughout New York and New Jersey and Massachusetts in 1790. Whoever else takes claim to that, I don't know what to tell you. Okay? Baseball is New York. The end. I will argue with you to the death about that. Okay? Each state, though, unfortunately had their own rules. And this was a problem. So if Jersey played New York, it's definitely going to be problems. Someone's getting hurt. And most likely it's New Jersey. Because we're New York. New York's version of the game, this is great, was adopted as the primary version, but they took out the idea of tagging the runner with the baseball by throwing it at him.
Oh.
Yeah, you know how you catch the ball like, boop, you're out? No, you just like, boom, yeah. Got him right in the head, he's out.
Oh,
So they got rid of those rules. They got rid of they made it soft, what can I tell you? But the reality is, tagging the person with the ball, throwing it at them, had to go. All the other rules we have in baseball today are New York rules, except for that one. Got it? And once again, do you want to get hit with a baseball? No. That's like a rock. It hurts.
Yeah.
So you have to be a certain breed to actually agree to play that game. So the game we have today is not Jersey, not Massachusetts, it's the New York version of baseball. Let's look at the first semi-pro baseball team, and those are a salty bunch of guys, huh? Look at them. And of course, they're the Knickerbocker Club. And they came from the Lower East Side, and they came out of the bar. If I'm pegging you with a baseball, it kind of goes hand in hand with the drinks. So, 1845, New York City, Alexander Cartwright founded the New York Knickerbocker Baseball Club. It's the first official baseball team. These are your guys. Those are your All-Stars. Those are your Mets. Those are your Yankees, right there. Got it?
Yeah.
Tough looking crew, huh?
Who's the guy with the top hat?
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
that's
Is
Alexander
that
Cartwright.
Oh, that's
Lincoln?
not-
I was
Yeah,
thinking,
he
is
has
that
to
Abe
look a little-
Lincoln?
he has to look
Oh,
different. He has to stand out. You can tell he wasn't in the same bar.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
sort of
You can tell he wasn't at McSorley's Ale House or something, you know, so. But going back to this though, let's fast forward a little bit. Before we fast forward to Suffolk County in the 1880s, let's talk about another event that's going to make this game leave New York and be exported. When we talk about New York, guys, there's a lot of things that's in popular culture that defines us as Americans that came out of New York. Some things we're not proud of, and some things we're very proud of. Terms that, we'll just leave it right there. And we also got a bunch of other things. But one thing that we did leave, New York, that came into the national psyche, is baseball. During the Civil War, when all those people from the Five Points and the Bowery were drafted. What do you think they were doing in their downtime? And yes, soldiers do have downtime sometimes. What do you think they were doing?
Playing baseball.
They were playing baseball.
Yeah.
In those POW camps with those Confederates, they had to do something to make sure they don't try to run away. What did they do? Created baseball teams. So you took baseball out of New York in the Civil War and exported it throughout the country.
Wow.
And it started right here, Patient One, New York City, with Alexander Cartwright. Well, actually before that with pegging people in the head, but you know, whatever. You know where I'm coming from. So that is going to be the whole start and fascination of baseball, right there. And also in the 1890s, we're also going to do something else with tobacco. What are we going to do? How are we going to really get people interested in tobacco products? Why am I going to buy your tobacco product versus her tobacco? I know you don't sell tobacco, but I'm just saying. Everyone's fascinated with baseball. What am I going to do? Advertise by putting a baseball card in there. So now we got tobacco cards, the old little baseball cards. You know, I'm sure the most valuable one's the Horace Wagner because he did not want to be in tobacco, and that's why it's so valuable, because he was really religious. He was against it. So baseball is going to be democratized throughout the country. By 1880s, everyone's going to have their league in the schoolyard, and it's going to be New York rules. Unorganized, gritty, grungy, but it's going to be about the game and the enjoyment. And it's all going to come from New York. And also the soldiers that fought in the Civil War that exported it out to everyone. Any questions?
Well, I find that remarkable. I never knew where baseball came from. I mean, I never knew, you know, why. They always say it's an American sport, right? I've heard that over and over. I don't know anything about baseball.
I will say this, though. War gives us an opportunity sometimes to export things. Europe never heard of Hershey chocolate. Better yet, they never heard of milk chocolate. Milton Hershey was talking about milk chocolate. Like, what the heck is that? It was the American soldier that just happened to have it in his rations.
Yeah.
That actually introduced Hershey as a multinational.
Wow. Okay.
You know? So out of war, you have unintended consequences, such as Hershey chocolate being a global seller. I still like dark chocolate better, but you know,
Me too.
Milton Hershey is a nice guy, historically speaking, and baseball. But yeah, that's how it got spread out.
Wow.
Anyone else? Questions? Cries of outrage? You know, you're wearing those Mets hats, and you know what's really interesting?
It's not a Mets hat.
Not a Mets?
I'm wearing my Sox cap because the Mets are pissing me off.
Okay, I respect that. I respect that.
This is a Giants cap.
Giants hat. Oh.
Number 40.
Oh, okay. My mistake. It's to the distance here. Hey, Barry, who's the founder of what team that lived on that block?
What was his name? I forget his name.
The first owner of the Yankees that brought the Baltimore Highlanders
Rupert?
to New York?
Colonel Jacob Rupert.
No. You think about Rupert, yeah, usually it's a beer distributor that owned the baseball team.
I forget his name. They just redid Diamonds.
They just redid, it's so beautiful. I remember walking through there acting like I can afford it. And they're like, so, interested? I'm like, no, I'm just looking at the house. Hold on 1 second. So the guy was a Tammany Hall corrupted official.
That's an oxymoron.
Yeah, well, yeah. He bought the baseball team to wash his money. And then the baseball team paid money for him, and he almost went to jail over it.
You know Santos thing.
Wait, what's this guy's name? Okay, I'm in a dark hole here, apparently. But it's on Ocean Avenue?
It's on Ocean.
It's on Ocean
Yeah.
Avenue. It's quote-unquote French Tudor style. And, hold on.
Diagonally across from Seabourn.
Yes. First owner. He bought the Baltimore Highlanders hoping that they were going to fail. And they didn't. They actually were good, and they were renamed Yankees by the Daily Brooklyn Eagle and also, what was the other one? There was 2 newspapers that just started calling them Yankees, Saturday Evening Post, I think. And they just went from there. Okay. I forgot the guy's name and it's not coming up here. Sorry, guys. Whoop. Oh, that's one. 1 second, I hope you guys don't mind.
It might be Farrell.
Frank Farrell.
Yeah.
Frank Farrell,
There you
there we
go.
go, Frank Farrell, there we go. I wrote the article back in 2000, I forgot. Frank Farrell, he was like a corrupt official, and he was like, yeah, I'm gonna wash all my illegal money through a horrible baseball team. And the baseball team did so good, it almost put him in jail. Story about the Yankees, right? You can't get more New York than that. So, let's go back to this. Sorry I digressed, by the way. But what would this hotel, this Argyle offer, that Bayshore could not offer? What would this hotel offer? Well, following the Civil War, as we discussed, baseball became a modern-day obsession. Frank Thompson, the head waiter, was extremely bored and he thought he was going to get fired, so he decided to form a baseball team among the kitchen staff. That's exactly how this started. He's like, hey guys, we're going to get fired, so let's just play baseball for a week. Fun fact, in times of crisis, sometimes crisis just means sudden change, and it's not a negative thing, right? Frank Thompson, head waiter within the Argyle, formed a baseball team among the other kitchen workers in an effort to pass the time. He named the team the Black Panthers. They were all African American or people of color, and they just went out in the front yard and started throwing the ball around, hitting it with the bat, having fun. Some of these porters and kitchen staff were actually in the 21st Regiment, the colored regiment of the Civil War. So they knew how to play baseball too. They did a lot in their downtime. Management didn't get upset because they started noticing people from other towns were coming to watch. And in times of crisis, you can have the best executive options. By 1885, the team was renamed the Cuban Giants because they wanted to make them sound exotic. And Cuba was very exotic back then. No Castro yet. Players included employees at the Argyle Hotel and other people they hired randomly from Philadelphia Sports Club who probably didn't know how to play baseball. They just wanted someone to play. They paid them $18 to $12 a week. And this is going to be the formation of the first black baseball league, the quote-unquote Negro leagues, they call it. Right there in Babylon Village. It's simple as that.
Wow.
People are going to come from all around. Bayshore's like, we're not going to compete with a baseball team, we're Bayshore. But guess what? Argyle, for that brief moment, is going to have people actually check in their hotel. Now this is where it gets funny. They started playing local teams that were white, mainly veterans of the Civil War, and S.K. Governor advertised them as Latino to reduce tensions. He told them, speak Spanish on the field. I don't know how to speak Spanish, well just mumble. Just mumble. So, despite the fact that they were mumbling and they were advertised as Latino, everyone figured out really quick that they were people of color and they were not Latin. They weren't speaking Spanish. They didn't know what they were speaking. It's like, was that a new phrase? They figured it out quick. But despite that, people came and there wasn't racial tensions, even when they were playing the white teams, trying to speak Spanish to them and not knowing how to speak Spanish.
There were racial tensions between the white teams and them?
No.
No? Okay.
No, that's why they had them speak in Spanish, to avoid potential racial
Okay,
tensions.
so even after everybody...
Yeah, they're like, no, you're just mumbling dumb stuff, but,
Okay.
we're
All
still
right.
kicking our, yeah. But that's what they were worried about. Because once again, this is the backdrop,
Okay.
This is a very, this is a time where you have racial tensions in a lot of places. So
Right.
S.K. Governor wanted to advertise them as Latino
Okay.
and try to
But it
reduce
didn't-
that. But everyone
That
figured it
just-
out after
That
the first
part
game.
worked out fine.
Yeah,
Oh,
everyone
that's
figured it
it.
out after the first game. Everyone's like,
interesting.
okay, this is ridiculous.
That's interesting.
I think they forgot to mumble half the time too.
Okay.
So I was like, what's up? Oh, that's not Spanish. So this is the first Cuban Giants team. This is Sol White. This is the guy I'm going to focus on a little later in the lecture. Sol White's really interesting. It's unclear where he's really from, but he died on Long Island in centralized psychiatric, because he had Alzheimer's, unfortunately, so we didn't have to deal with that back then. So, but we'll get to that another time, towards the end, of course. So this is the original team. And this is kind of like the all-star team right here. From the right to left, standing in the back, you got George Parago, Ben Holmes, Seth Trusty, Arthur Thomas, Clarence Williams, and Frank Miller. Miller's on the end. He was the head waiter at one time. Then you got captain. In the front row, you got Sol White, just starting out. He's actually probably 17 with a full mustache.
Wow.
George Williams, Abe Harrison, and the manager right there is S.K. Governor, the guy in the middle with the dark suit. You see, you always know who the managers of these teams are. The other guy was wearing a top hat and a dark suit. This guy's just wearing a dark suit.
Right.
They definitely stand out. They don't look like team players, you know? And then you got Ben Boyd, Jack Fry, and the other guy, we don't know his first name. We just know him as Alan. Okay, so this is the first Negro Leagues. Any questions? Prize average? No! We don't know Alan's first name. Now, this is interesting. The New York Metropolitans. With success on defeating every regional minor league team, the Cuban Giants took their first major league stand. It was the New York Metropolitans. These are the guys, the New York Metropolitans, that they're going to go after. And, you know, they're a little more bougie, you know, a little more, you know, they're wearing knee-high socks, you know, they got ties on. I don't know who wears a tie and play baseball, but sure, you know. What is that, neckerchief? I don't know. But the New York Metropolitans, they played them. And unfortunately, I wish I could tell you, Babylon destroyed the Metropolitans. It didn't work that way. But the Giants lost 11-3. But what made the records was an all-black team playing an all-white team that was pro. This was the first. An all-black team playing an all-white team on a professional level. On a pro level, sorry. This shattered your racial barriers right here. And something else shattered the racial barriers. At the end of the game, they all shook hands. And I know that sounds crazy now, because we're in a different world, thank God. But back then, we're going by Jim Crow etiquette, even in New York. You have to know the significance of this game, and even the camaraderie of them shaking hands. By the late 1870s, big cities enacted Jim Crow laws or etiquettes. These laws segregated blacks and whites. The first state to enact these laws and etiquettes was Massachusetts. It wasn't Alabama. No, Alabama ran with it, but Massachusetts was the first to enact it. And Mississippi ran with it, and so the whole Confederacy, obviously. A black team and a white team playing each other to a sold-out stadium and shaking hands at the end. Let's look at the significance. A black male could not offer his hand to shake hands with a white male because it implied that they were socially equal. Black and whites were not supposed to eat together. If they did, there was supposed to be a partition between them. Under no circumstances was a black male to offer a light of a cigarette to a white female. This was a sign of intimacy. Blacks were not allowed to show public affection towards one another in public, especially kissing, because it offended whites. And whites did not use courtesy titles, such as Mr., Mrs., Miss, Sir, and Madam. But all these ridiculous etiquettes were thrown out during that game. And that's what's so significant about it. Everyone got it?
Yeah.
They're shaking hands. They're laughing at each other. They probably lit each other cigarettes. You know, because that's what you do. You run around a field and then smoke a pack of cigarettes. But it's the Jim Thorpe way, right? It's not a good way, but the reality is, it threw this out. You have civil rights happening through sports.
And that was for that time, that game?
Huge.
Okay.
But it's going to get bigger. Following the game, the all-white teams, the Giants, became the inspiration for every black community on Long Island. And every black community wanted to be in the Negro League and be successful. Every community is forming a baseball team, seeking new economic opportunities to get hired by these resorts. They started forming things. North Amityville Native Americans and black community formed the Mohawks, which led to local, regional championships. So if Sandy Brewster was here, she'll appreciate this. Hold on, because her grandfather's actually in this picture, great-grandfather. Yeah, I found it, it's pretty cool. The North Amityville Mohawks. Look at that truck in the back, ain't that cool? This team kept going on forever. This is 1933, 1934, this is one of the last ones. They used to play near Sunrise Highway and Albany Avenue. There's a big rock there, used to be there. They used to play right there. And, you know, they won a bunch of championships. And prior to this picture, not this picture, not this one, but this is the only one I got of them, to give you some context. They played for a lot of resort towns. They were hired. But guess what, guys? Cuban Giants destroyed them. Sorry. They're number 3, not even number 2, because number 1's Cuban Giants, number 2 is Cuban Giants. But of course they were sold. They weren't Cuban Giants anymore. They were like Trenton Giants, Philadelphia Giants. But if you go to Argyle Park today, you're going to see this stone right by the train station and the lake. This is home plate for the Cuban Giants. You know, the birth site of the famous Cuban Giants, the first professional black baseball league. These baseball games and championship series would keep Argyle viable until the early 20th century, when they would close the stores for good because it burned down. Because gas lamps in a big hotel don't work. You shouldn't have open flames in your hallway when you just got done varnishing the nice ceiling. That's why we have tin ceilings. So, after the Argyle burned down, they rebuilt it, had a couple of baseball games, and it burned down again, and that was a wrap, and now it's a beautiful park. And a couple of houses, quite a few houses actually. But if you go there by the Babylon train station, here's the baseball field, here's the lake, and go all the way, it looks like, by someone's backyard practically, home plate is still there. It's a replacement, obviously, but that's where home plate would have been. That's what I'm trying to say. Cool, right? But guys, unfortunately, they did not stay here forever. There was a successful transfer of ownership. They had to be contracted to play for Argyle. But in 1885, they consolidated a bunch of teams in Manhattan, Washington, D.C., and they called this the Philadelphia Orions. Walter Cook took over the corporation and held the Cuban Giants in Keystone Athletics Corp. Cook then moved the Cuban Giants to Trenton, New Jersey, but they still had to play at Argyle. So picture, you know how like the Islanders had to play at Nassau Coliseum, but they were in the Barclays for a while? It's like one of those situations, except this is New Jersey and this is New York. Any questions? But I forgot we have to discuss our friend. When we say he's born in 1868, we really don't know. We don't know. We don't know a single thing. We think he was born in Ohio, maybe West Virginia, maybe 1868, maybe 1865. We don't know. Soul White, his early years is a mystery. We do know he came to New York for a job, and he went to Brooklyn, and then he was offered a job to work at the Argyle, where he got the job and became a great baseball player. Solomon Soul White got his professional starts as an infielder with the Cuban Giants. White went to organize later on the Philadelphia Giants, which won the color championships every year from 1904 to 1907. This success made White the manager of 6 other color championship teams. He even started a whole column in various newspapers picked up about the color championships, colored baseball, and where you should put your bets on. Of course, it had nothing to do with gambling. You know, it's not a Pete Rose situation. But going back to this, though, Soul White became a legend right there. But while he's doing this, doing something really interesting. So there's a minor league team really wanting to be a major league team. And it's called the Wheeling Green Stockings. I know, Green Stockings is kind of a funny name. They're an all-white team. And they wanted the coattails of someone famous. So they signed Sol White as one of their team members. So he broke the color barrier in minor leagues. And this is significant because he broke the color barrier in freaking West Virginia. So that's very significant. We're out of New York now. He broke the color barrier in minor leagues 2 years before Jackie Robinson integrated the major leagues. 60 years.
Wow.
And there he is right there. So they wanted to strengthen their weaknesses. And, you know, Sol White could do that. Guy lived baseball. He breathed baseball. Unfortunately, the Whelans never, you know, he couldn't keep the whole team up himself. Okay? So, unfortunately, they weren't a good team. I wish I could tell you something different. But it's interesting because I want to digress and go back to the Cuban Giants for a second. The Cuban Giants almost became a major league team without the color league title. The Northeastern Conference of all baseball teams got together to discuss whether to make them a major league. Every New York team hands down said yes, they got to be a major league. Especially the ones that mopped the floor with them, the Metropolitans. They were the biggest advocates. But New Jersey teams didn't feel that way, and believe it or not, Connecticut had a baseball team at this time. They didn't feel that way. So they were not allowed to join the Northeastern regional leagues. They actually had to start their own, and that's why it became the Negro Leagues. I think I left that part out. I do apologize. Any questions? Go once, gone twice? Prize of outrage? It wasn't the Yankees, Giants, or Sox or anything, so. Sol White, this is him right here, 78 years, when Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier.
Oh, wow.
That's him throwing out a pitch. He's much older, not in his prime. But he's going to be alive when Jackie Robinson did break the color barrier for major leagues. He's going to be 78 years old, and this is him.
Wow.
1955, sorry about that. Sol White would die in Central Islip State Hospital at the age of 87. He didn't have a psychiatric issue. He probably had Alzheimer's or dementia. Once again, 1955, we didn't know treatment for that at all. We just knew it had a warehouse. There wasn't a medication or anything, so I know it sounds archaic, but this is where we're at scientifically at the time. He would be inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame in 2006, and he'll have his space in history. And he's buried in Staten Island. So.
Was he married? Did he have any children?
I don't know the whole thing. I think he played in a lot of traveling leagues, if you follow what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He probably did have children.
Right.
He definitely probably had children, you know. Baseball players were rock stars at the time. So,
They still are.
yeah, they are. They definitely are. We still follow a lot of that
Yeah.
stuff. So he probably did have children. I don't know how many. I don't know his whole situation, marital status when he passed. But I do know he finally made it into the Hall of Fame in 2006, and he's not buried in Central Islip Psychiatric Center, because Central Islip has their burials right behind the building, well, where the buildings used to be. You can still see the plots, and they have the numbers, and you got to look up who's buried there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I actually was trying to verify a grave for someone a while ago there. That is a very complicated process. Actually thinking about it's giving me a really horrible headache. Because it's so complicated, you know? The other complicated process is Pilgrim Psychiatric, the burial ground, because when they closed a lot of these buildings, they just left the windows open. It's like, well, there's the records. no one really documented everything. And what upsets me about Pilgrim Psychiatric was they were actually taking the bodies from General Mason Hospital, which was the Veterans Hospital. And they were burying the veterans there. And there's a lot of veterans buried there, not with the proper honors.
Oh, wow.
Well, good luck trying to find them because we just got numbers, we can't trace them. Because those records we don't know where they are.
Do we know whether Jack and Saul White ever met?
I believe they did. Well, not like buddy-buddy, but at a game, you know, for the pictures. So, I believe that's one of the games right there. So, any other questions? Going once, going twice? Okay. I left it open for a couple of minutes for questions. And if you have anything, I'm here. Go. Yes, go.
When people did gather to watch the game, did they pay admission?
Oh, yeah.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Argyle was making money.
Of course.
And then the dinners, they would.
Exactly, yeah, the Argyle was making money, and of course, if you stayed there, the game was free to watch.
Oh,
Yeah, that's a big takeaway. You get the little season tickets, if you stay there for a month, of course. But I don't know why you want to do that, you could just come to Bay Shore and go select and watch. So, you know, another interesting thing the Argyle tried to market, Bay Shore kind of beat them on, was Oak Beach. I think I mentioned that before. Oak Beach had a lot of, like, once again, that was another celebrity hotspot, Oak Beach, but the studio was actually in Bay Shore, the Infograph building on 4th Avenue. So they kind of like side-handed Babylon for that as well. So, any other questions? Okay.
Chris, thank you.
Do you teach at a university?
Yes. So I teach at a couple of places. I teach at Suffolk
I would
Community.
take the class.
Thank you. I teach at Suffolk Community College, and I do teach in New York City and Long
Don't
Island.
forget the refreshments in the back.
And I also teach at John Jay College. I teach.
I'm graduating.
Oh, John Jay Surrey. I love it.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
No, wait. Let me